And viewers, of course, you know that this week we are focusing both on the morning show and on GMT. We are focusing on women because on March 8th, that's on Friday, it is International Women's Day. So all week we are celebrating women in all the different spaces within Tobago, the country, wherever they are. And there's quite a lot of women doing some very unique things out there. And one of them is Miss Melanie Trim, and she is in the energy industry. She's a manager of energy resources with the Department of Energy within the THA. So, first of all, a special good morning and welcome to you, Miss Melanie. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kandace, and good morning, viewers. I am well today. How are you?
I am great. So, give us
Okay.
an idea of just about yourself and just your interest in this field, in
Okay.
energy.
Right. So, by profession, I am a petroleum engineer, and I'm also I pivoted as well to renewable engineering. Right. So, I guess the inspiration to get into petroleum engineering, as it is a male-dominated field, would be my early exposure to it. My dad being in the energy industry himself. I remember before the common entrance examination, we had social studies and science. He carried me to the Point Lisas Industrial Estate. We did a tour of the estate. We looked at Brechin Castle, the sugarcane fields and different things just to have an understanding of the natural resources and Trinidad and Tobago, where we fit in the in the energy industry. That would have translated now into Form 3 when we had to pick subjects. I was really good at sciences, physics, geography at my introduction. And I remember we had character development, and Margaret Gordon came to our class, and she told us to close our eyes and think about where we see ourselves 10 years in the future and what we want it to be. And we closed our eyes, and when we opened, she asked me, what did you see and how did you view yourself? And I said, well, I think I'll be a geophysicist. Not knowing at that time exactly that it was related to the energy industry in Form 3, it was just an innocent suggestion. And she asked me why. I said, well, I have a keen interest in geography and physics, and I think I can bridge you two, although I know that there's geology as well involved. So that is where the inspiration starts to come from. And then during geography, you do natural resources.
Yes.
The natural resources for Trinidad and Tobago, for Jamaica, the bauxite, different things. And ours was oil and gas. And I remember volunteering, to my teacher that if my dad could get crude oil. So she was like, really? So the class was excited. You can get crude oil? So I was like, yes. I went. So when I asked my dad, Daddy, you can get crude oil, right? So a week later, I got a bottle of crude oil and I carried to the class, and it was enthusiasm and excitement all around. Looking at this black gold, this black substance, very thick, very dense. So we were able to interact with the properties of this material. And so that is where the inspiration started at a young age. I think the awareness of it, being immersed into it, having a parent involved heavily in the oil and gas industry. And then, of course, when I got into Form 6, my dad told me, choose a field. And I looked at petroleum engineering. And then I went on to University of Oklahoma, where I studied petroleum engineering. And of course, a lot of men, a lot of the males would be there. So I was always the minority in terms of gender. But I think what is important is not necessarily looking at yourself as a minority, but looking at how you can level the playing field and rise to the top. My brother would always tell me the cream rises to the top. Yes. So I always wanted to be in that place and that space where I have a competitive advantage. And so it was more about intellectual capacity and being able to challenge myself there with the men in the field and also, rising.
Were you ever intimidated with the men around? So much men
No.
around?
So I wasn't. I come from a big family, one of seven, second to last, and I have four brothers. And so, it's normal for me to be around them. My social construct within the home, we have a very close-knit family. And so, we encourage each other. So being in that field, it was just a continuation of the industry. I think continuation of my home, I think what was pivotal, I think you would have asked the question, the inspiration too. I would remember times when my dad would have to be on platforms and I wanted to be offshore as well. So I had that opportunity to go offshore.
All right. So what does your job entail now? Because when we think about onshore, offshore work and stuff like that. It's really hard stuff, really manual labor and stuff like that. What does your job entail now?
Okay, so I'll just go back a bit because at this time I'm more in the office. Now, when we think of offshore, you think manual labor. But as a technical person, a reservoir engineer, I would have had training in well test analysis. So that is also quantifying the volume of gas in the subsurface. So I worked offshore Tobago in particular, NCMA 4 and Block 22. Right, so I would have been the reservoir engineer in training on that. So I would have been on the platform. I was one woman, the lone female of 109 men on the rig. So yes, you will have men doing the manual labor, but for me, I would have been in the offices. On the rig, it's almost like a hotel. It's like a platform. You have your lodging, you have the galley for eating and everything. And you do your technical work, you do your logging, you do your interpretation and so on. So I did not have to do any manual labor because I was more sharing my knowledge, interpreting the logs, and then also quantifying what's in the subsurface. So that would have been the experience there. And I was also seconded to the UK, where I was working in the offices in Windsor and Aberdeen. So with this experience or this exposure in the oil industry, you have a plethora of opportunities. The world is your oyster, and you see how you can challenge yourself. You see how you can expose yourself, being the best in the field. You can expose yourself to a number of opportunities, and I think that is very important. So you asked about now, how is it relating now? So, the oil industry is a very volatile industry.
Yes.
So in 2016, it plummeted, the oil price plummeted, and that affects a lot of aspects within the field. So inclusive of job opportunities and all of that. So I think what was important for me, I always challenge myself and I look within, I do a lot of self-reflection to see where I am relative to the industry and how I can improve. Right? And I saw it was very important to diversify. Persons will always say petroleum engineering is a sort of very specialized field. And so you kind of have to stick there. So what I did, I diversified in my energy portfolio and I did studies in renewable energy. And so that is what I'm actually doing now in the Tobago House of Assembly and General. So you're looking at solar energy, energy efficiency, energy conservation, any sort of renewable energy technology. So I'm doing that now. So it's a total transition. It's a pivot. But both have, you have your similarities, you have the differences, but it's all about maneuvering and being able to transfer knowledge from one sector to the other and being able to contribute valuable contribution to Tobago.
So between the two, renewable energy and the petroleum industry, what do you like one more? Is there one that you favor more?
In terms of the experiences that you have, the petroleum industry would always win there,
and why is
right? You have luxurious experiences. As I said to you, I would have stayed almost quite some time in the Windsor Castle Hotel. So they pay for a lot of your accommodations. You have your drivers picking you up, and so you're introduced and exposed to a certain type of lifestyle, right? But in terms of seeing, and then you're able to see, you're quantifying this gas in the subsurface, and people come to you for that type of information. You have sensitive information, and then, I was as well in the subsurface technical team. I was the lone woman as well. So you have the drilling engineers, you have the reservoir engineers, and everybody. And, they will ask you questions and you don't feel intimidated. You see that they encourage you. They are mentors and they even give you tips on how men are in the field and just generally in the world at large. So, but the renewable energy aspect, it has its pros, especially as it's a burgeoning sector within Tobago. So you become one of the pioneers, so you learn how to design systems. You understand where the world is going globally in terms of reducing the carbon footprint, reducing your greenhouse gas emissions, and you look at energy management strategies to underscore the agenda.
Yeah. And, what do you think about what can be done to increase the awareness about your field, especially among women themselves, and to encourage them to get into your field?
Yeah, so what is important is always integration in school curriculum. So right now, the Division of Education and even the division in which I work, which is Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, we are partnering with the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Education to do integrative studies in the curriculum,
Mhm.
right? So renewable energy technology or green engineering would be integrated into the school's curriculum. I actually have a meeting after this to speak about how we're going to move forward with that. I think key information about awareness would be also seeing the infrastructure on the ground. So I am also a tutor. So I tutor students and they come to me and I use the opportunity to teach them about energy management strategies. I tell them that my bill is $100 every 2 months and they be like, Miss, how? So you take that as a learning tool. So I think that is part of awareness, speaking to the children, integrating it into the school's curriculum, and then of course doing the different projects that we'll have coming on stream very soon in Tobago. It's already started, but we started in schools because of course children, teachers, and persons, you have to get them involved so that they can carry it on, extrapolate it to the wider community.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And then, what are the projects that you guys are working on? Because you mentioned that there are some things that you are hoping that the division is hoping to
Yeah.
roll out soon.
Right. So I don't know if you know the Bloody Bay Orientation Center. So we partnered with UNDP. So the Bloody Bay Orientation Center that would have been.
And that's in the rainforest?
That's in the rainforest. So we have that entire building as a standalone solar system that was a partnership with the European Union and UNDP. And we also have installed, the division would have installed Wi-Fi there. So it's a tourism hotspot. Everybody likes to use their phones, Snapchats, different things. So you have the access to the internet there. We have the school, Speyside High School. Their lab is powered, so of course the children will be exposed to that level of the renewable energy technology. Apart from that, we have the Speyside Health Center. It has a solar water heater on there to take their hot water needs off. And that will create some level of fiscal space. The Charlottesville Methodist Primary School has installed a 15 kilowatt capacity there, and that is to power the school with solar energy. What we see happening in Charlottesville was the frequent power outages and the low voltage issues that in rural villages or remote areas would experience due to the vegetation and of course the TNTech lines. Right, so we decided to use that school as a pilot, and we have trained persons in the community, the teachers as well as other technicians, and children and teachers were also trained. So that's a major. Apart from that, we have 4 projects coming on stream, which will be for disaster management and preparedness and climate resilience, because part of the entire renewable energy thrust is to not only engender environmental sustainability, but also to prepare us for climate, to become more climate resilient.
Certainly.
So if there's a hurricane or anything, you still have access to electricity, you have your backup system, a contingency plan, right? And schools are secondary shelters. So it was only prudent to install those. We have 4 schools, Castara Government Primary, we have Bishop's High School, Signal Hill Government Primary School, and Scarborough Methodist. So we were very strategic to get a wide cross-section across Tobago. And of course, this is just the beginning. It will then be further extrapolated. So sometimes persons think that solar energy is the be-all and end-all of renewable energy, but there are other technologies. So of course, you'll be hearing a lot about the electric vehicles, rollout of that. We're seeing a lot of hybrid vehicles now. So we're looking at also rolling out electric charging stations across Tobago. So that is a very current project. And in the agricultural sector, we're also looking at doing a biodigester to see how we can convert biomass, the litter from the animals and livestock, into some sort of biogas energy. So that is coming on stream. I know you had Alicia from TARI yesterday. And so that's a project that TARI will be working on. And among other things will be climate resilience strategies within the agriculture sector.
So in essence, a whole lot of exciting things to look forward to.
Absolutely, yes.
And I mean, certainly, and you've been doing such a remarkable job in these things. And I mean, it's great to know that we have some women at the helm pioneering some of these things here in Tobago.
Absolutely, Kandace.
So I want to thank you so much for being on. It was such a pleasure speaking with you and getting into some of those people that are behind a lot of those projects that we're going to be seeing rolling out, especially these ones that are considering the way that we deal with our environment, especially treating with the changes that are being imposed on us with climate change and all of that that's happening within our space. So it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yes, agreed.
So thank you so much for being on. And viewers, please don't go anywhere because we'll be back right after this break.
It's a brand new morning.